Yeah, I stumbled on this video today. This guy in this video here, Mr. Richardson, he's just another free will worshiper, man. He's no different than all the rest. And you can see by the title of this video here, God is patient with his own decree. Calvinism is irrational. Well, it wouldn't necessarily even be Calvinism. The idea that God is patient with his own decree, by making this title, it's on his channel. He thinks God being patient with what he decreed is irrational. Well, it is to him, that's for sure. Because look, man, it's the same as all the other free will worshipers. Nothing makes sense. See, nothing makes sense to him if there's no free will. Nothing. That's why I keep calling them free will worshipers, because the basis, the cornerstone of their belief is free will. Without it, they don't have a religion. Nothing would make sense. So you take away their cornerstone, free will, and Jesus is impotent. Whereas the child of God, Jesus, is the cornerstone. It's the basis for everything. It's what the house is built on. He's a moron. Jesus said the moron man has built his house on sand, which is free will. That's his cornerstone. Without it, he doesn't have a religion. But this is stupid. God is patient with his own decree. Yes, he is. And he's having a debate with Dr. James White, and he asked Dr. James White this question. And Dr. White should have just said yes, but apparently this guy caught Mr. White saying that God is not patient or something. That's why James White couldn't just answer yes. You know, he's tripping on himself. I mean, both of these guys, it's like stupid. But for a child of God, this is a no-brainer. Yes, God is patient with what he decreed. Without a doubt. It's a no-brainer for the child of God. I mean, this is real simple. I mean, you can do this simply. So read Deuteronomy chapter 28. And God decrees what's going to happen to Israel. The whole chapter. It starts out where he says if. It's like a future tense. If you do this, you know, such and such. You can read it for yourself. You know, good things are going to happen. And it gets down to around verse, I think, 25 or so. And it's like, well, and if you do bad stuff, well, bad stuff's going to happen. You know, it's a future tense. And by the time you get down to verse, just read it for yourself. By the time you get down to verse 45, all these things shall come upon thee. It's a future tense. It's going to happen. It's not if anymore. And then you get down and it and God starts talking. I don't know what you call the tense. It's a future tense. It's a present tense that God talks in a present tense as if God's in the future, speaking that it already happened or that it has happened. You can see that here in verse 45, I think itself, if I'm not mistaken. Moreover, all these curses shall come to pass. It's not an if anymore. And shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because you hearkenest not. Present tense. So he says these things will happen, and he says because you present tense hearkenest not. So clearly God is decreeing what's going to happen to Israel. If you don't understand that, then you just, I mean, my gosh, you don't understand language, period. So God decreed Israel would be its adversary. A whole chapter's worth. And there's even more after this. But then you go, for example, here. This is Nehemiah 9, verse 17. And look at the end, look at slow to anger. He's talking about Israel now, particularly southern Israel, because they're disobeying, and you refuse to obey the adversaries, their adversary. Neither were you mindful and wonders if thou didst among them, but hardened their necks. In rebellion appointed captain returned to their bondage, but thou art God ready to pardon, gracious and merciful, slow to anger. And in the Septuagint, which is the Greek version of this, it's epithemia, or no, macrothemia, which means like to breathe slow. It's slow to anger, patient. So there's God being patient with what he decreed to happen. I mean, it's just so blatantly obvious, it's ridiculous. And this fool thinks it irrational. Go figure.